Good morning. I'm Kim Chappell, and I'm the worship associate for today. I'm also a board member, and it's my fault that we're late starting. It's my pleasure to welcome you here to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster. Here we come together to nourish the spirit, connect in love, and act for justice. We welcome you this morning just as you are. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, however you identify. Today, you are part of this spiritual community. And if this is your first time here, may you soon discover that this is also your spiritual community. If you are here for the first time and would like more information, there should be a card in the pew back in front of you that you could fill in, and when the offering is collected later in the service, just put that card into that. Please do what you need to do to feel fully present in this space. Move or sway, dance. If doing something with your hands helps you feel present, please feel free to use the hands-on materials in the table in the back and for the children on the floor in the Women's Memorial Room. And a special welcome to everyone joining this service today on Zoom. As has become our Zoom tradition, I invite those on Zoom to turn your camera on and share a wave together. And everyone in the sanctuary, let's wave at the camera in the back of the sanctuary to send our greetings. I also welcome this morning, not just to this space and time, but let us acknowledge in this sacred space the truth of the land beneath and around us. We are gathered on land once inhabited by people known as the Susquehannock and Conestoga. We acknowledge the violent legacies of genocide, displacement, and settlement that led to us being here today, and remind ourselves to live humbly in relation with this land and with all the indigenous peoples still living and loving on this continent. Many indigenous people will say, all are relatives. May we live into this truth and aspiration together. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our minister, the Reverend Patricia Guthmann Haresch.
Thank you so much, Kim. Before we light the chalice, let us sing, and you may rise as you are able. There were separate words with the order of service for "Let there be peace on earth." Good morning. This past Friday was Veterans Day, and this morning we are honoring veterans and all who serve now, and all those who serve in the way they know how during times of war, while we also hold a hope for peace. While you at home light your chalices, and Kim lights our chalice in the sanctuary, I'm going to be reading a poem by Unitarian Archibald MacLeish, and it appears in our gray hymnal. MacLeish, as a young man, served in World War I, where he witnessed suffering and death firsthand on the battlefields of Europe. During the Second World War, when he was working in the Library of Congress, a memorial service was held for all the staff members who had died in war. And MacLeish contributed this poem of his own. The young soldiers do not speak. Nevertheless, they are heard in the still houses. Who has not heard them? They have a silence that speaks for them at night. And when the clock counts, they say, "We were young, we have died, remember us." They say, "We have done what we could, but until it is finished, it is not done." They say, "We have given our lives, but until it is finished, no one can know what our lives gave." They say, "Our deaths are not ours, they are yours. They will mean what you make of them." They say, "Whether our lives and our deaths were for peace and a new hope or for nothing, we cannot say. It is you who must say this." They say, "We leave you our deaths. Give them their meaning. Give them an end to war and a true peace. Give them a victory that ends the war and a peace afterwards. Give them their meaning." "We were young," they say. "We have died. Remember us." And so let us remember them. Now, this is a time in the service when anyone who's a child in spirit or by age is welcome to come on up and see what we have in our Wonder Box this morning. Is there anyone who wants to come up? Anyone? We've got a couple people but in spirit. They're coming on up. Let's see what's in the Wonder Box for this morning. Oh, we got some folks coming up. There we go. We even got some 4-leggeds. Come on up. So I wonder, is there anybody who might be interested in looking in the box and seeing what we might have? Do you want to see should we see what's in the box? Right on the top. Oh, there's a book. No, a book. There's a book. There is a rock. That's for you, Andrea. But there's a book. The book. Oh. I got to see what was in there. Let me see what it says. Whoop. You're going to grab and a marker. There you go. Thank you very much. I'm going to read a little something, I guess. Do you think I should? Because it's marked here. I'll see what it says. It says, it's a very famous Buddhist thing. "May every creature abound in well-being and peace. May every living being, weak or strong, the long and the small, the short and the medium size, the mean and the great. May every living being, seen or unseen, those dwelling far off, those living nearby, those already born, those waiting to be born, may all attain inward peace. Let no one deceive another. Let no one despite another in any situation. Let no one from antipathy or hatred wish evil to anyone at all. Just as a mother with her own life protects her only child from hurt, so within yourself foster a limitless concern for every living creature. Display a heart of boundless love for all the world in all its height and depth and broad extent. Love unrestrained, without hate or enmity. Then as you stand or walk, sit or lie, until overcome by drowsiness, devote your mind entirely to this. It is known as living the life divine. And so it is, as people, we hold both on the one hand defense of the world and ourselves and conflict and times of war, and we hold this hope and this desire for peace all at the same time. A long time ago, when I was serving a congregation. Can it be that I can say long time ago? When I was serving a congregation, there was a wonderful congregant named Mary Ellen, and she said, Pat, my husband served in the Vietnam War, and when he came home, it was hard because people didn't understand that war, and they didn't understand his sacrifices, and he didn't understand why people didn't know what he went through, all in the name of the country. We hold these complex truths, one and the same. So Mary Ellen and I really together created much of the seed for this service today. And one of the things we did is we created a ceremony to hold these two things we hoped. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is go back to their seats, and so that you can see what we're about to do and honor people and honor peace. And then we'll sing you out. Go now in peace with Joanna and her mom. So you can return to your seats, and then we'll do our ceremony, okay? Those can go back. I'm going to put this back too. Thank you, Andrea. For the next time of wonder. For right or wrong, whether we agree with it or not, people have laid down their lives, have suffered, and served this country as soldiers in all of our names. Let us honor those who have served in the military, those who are currently serving, those who have given their families away overseas, and sometimes they come back, and sometimes they don't. And let us honor all who work for peace. If you are willing and able, if you have served in any branches of the armed forces, whether for the United States or elsewhere, would you rise? Would you be willing to rise? I'm going to come a little closer. We got a few out here, and maybe some who are watching by Zoom. If you're willing, could you share how you served? What branch?
In the Army Medical Corps.
Army Medical Corps. Doctor degree. Yes?
The same, Army Medical.
Army Medical Corps.
Navy. Navy.
Navy.
Army.
Army.
Cape May, New Jersey.
Cape May, New Jersey. Thank you. And if you could remain standing, those who have not served cannot fully imagine the experience of whether you've gone to war or are waiting to go overseas and not knowing. For those of you who have served on the front lines, we do know war's aftermath of post-traumatic stress, of suicides, and the toll that it can take on the human heart. For your service and in our names, we're grateful. If you could remain standing. And if anyone currently has a family member who is serving or a loved one who has served in the military, if you might stand as you are able. We got a few more. Could you call out the name of a loved one who served?
Frank David Marshall.
Frank?
Tim Ashman.
Tim?
George Reiser.
George?
Don Weitzel.
Don?
Paul Stars.
Paul? Anyone else? A name of someone serving or who has served?
Katie Manford.
Katie?
Robert Holland.
Rob?
Bill.
Billy?
Drew.
Bill and Drew?
Joseph.
Joseph?
Lou Raskin.
Why don't you just keep saying names? There's so many. Eli, others.
Aaron Cowan.
George Denton.
George.
Richard Warren.
Richard.
Holly Graham.
More.
Stanley Boreal.
Harvey, Sidney, and Mervyn Fall.
Thank you.
Scott.
Scott.
Roger Cullen. Rush Freeman.
Rush.
Michael Joyce. Edward Joyce. Jane Joyce.
Michael Edward Jane.
David Carter.
David. Way back.
Richard and Roger Peterson.
Richard and Roger. I heard you. Any others did you call out?
Edgar Kempton.
Edgar.
My father Dan, and my son Scott.
Dan and Scott. My Uncle Richard.
I have one.
Oh,
Irvin Allett and Colin Chappell.
yes. If you could remain standing. My Uncle Richard Guthmann, Air Force, the plane was shot down over Brussels in World War II, so I never met him. Of course, not only soldiers, but their loved ones sacrifice much during a soldier service, whether by raising children alone or waiting anxiously during long absences. In addition to the soldiers, we're grateful for the sacrifices of family and loved ones who had the difficult task of waiting and never sometimes having the chance to say goodbye. And if there are any others who were conscientious objectors or protesters during times of conflict, maybe some of you are one and the same who are already standing. You may stand as well. And we know those times were difficult too and challenging for many also who were conscientious objectors and protesters. For you too held strong to your convictions of peace in this complex world we live in. That's a lot of people. Take note of all who've been personally touched by war. And may we ever strive to end whatever conflicts rage in the world so that these wars may be the last and no more people are sent to battle. May it be so. And let us sing the children out, a song we know, Go Now in Peace.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. One more time. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. I think as we already were, let us draw together closer to the heart of love at our center and hold in our hearts and minds all who are in need of compassion, including yourself, food, people who also need food and shelter, those who are not well in body, mind, or spirit, in need of peace where there is war, unrest, anxiety. May we know that we are completely interconnected and interdependent. I breathe what the trees breathe out and the plants exhale. My health depends on the quality of the soil, the water and air, and the well-being of all those around me. May we feel abundant compassion for all that is above, below, and around us. I'm going to ask Kim to plant some stones in the sand for some spoken joys, sorrows, complex truths. A stone of celebration for Pennsylvania, who voted for democracy. Just saying. The nation was watching you. Yeah. Also a stone of remembrance again for our dear Carol Lieber. Her memorial service will be today at 2, and a reception will follow. It will also be live streamed. 2 stones of sadness, and if you haven't heard what I'm going to say, do be prepared, because these are 2 stones of sadness. I want to share that our hearts go out to John and Barbara Snyder, their son, John W. Snyder II, tragically died this last week. So please do hold John and Barbara in your hearts, and also their son's daughter, Layla Grace. Steve Jones will be officiating a service the Saturday following Thanksgiving at the Groff Funeral Home in the morning, 11 a.m., for Barbara and John's son. I want to say this has been a tough week for them, so they're not hoping for lots of calls and visits, but cards will be appreciated. I think we're having a few too many deaths recently. Also, for those of you who knew David Silver, he hasn't been here for a while, but you might remember David. He died unexpectedly, and I spoke with his sister just yesterday. I believe he died just yesterday morning. His family will have a service for him in Long Island, and his obituary will be soon in the paper. His sister Terry mentioned that she knew how much this church meant to David. So please also hold his family and those who would visit David in your hearts as well. For those of you who are on Zoom participating, you can get your stones out. And for those in the sanctuary, this is the time where silently we will walk and share joys and sorrows and complex truths just in silence, but planting these stones so that healing may happen, and just like planting roots, tentacles coming out and spreading joy and sorrow and healing for all that is. Why don't we go ahead and start that? While everyone settles in again, let us take a moment to hold joys and sorrows and complex truths in our hearts. Let us be still and together be in silence. May love and peace and compassion abound. That couldn't have been more perfect. Thank you. Piece from the City of Vietnam by the late Thich Nhat Hanh, peace activist, exile from Vietnam, and poet, spiritual leader. They woke me this morning to tell me my brother had been killed in battle. Yet in the garden, uncurling moist petals, a new rose blooms on the bush, and I am alive, can still breathe the fragrance of roses and dung, eat, pray, and sleep. But when can I break my long silence? When can I speak the unuttered words that are choking me?
From the Unitarian poet Langston Hughes. The face of war is my face. The face of war is your face. What color is the face of war? Brown, black, white? Your face and my face. Death is the broom. I take it in my hands to sweep the world clean. I sweep and I sweep, then mop and I mop. I dip my broom in blood, my mop in blood, and blame you for this, because you are their enemy. It's hard to blame me because I am here, so I kill you, and you kill me. My name, like your name, is war.
How many roads must a man walk down before you can call him a man? How many years must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? Yes, and how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head, pretending he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many times must a person look up before they can see the sky? Yes, and how many years must one person have before they can hear people cry? Yes, and how many deaths will it take till they know that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Heroes by Jared Jenkins. In war, there are lives risked and lives taken, men and women giving their best to defend what they love. They defend their country, their honor, their people. Some call them soldiers, some call them heroes. Our veterans have risked their lives for us. They have lived through hell and fought with honor. Many have killed and regret doing so. And every life, for every life, there is a soul. For every soul, there is a life. For those who have died, we show great appreciation and remembrance. For those who live, along with them live the horrific memories of battle. Some memories of defeat, some memories of victory. Our veterans were more than soldiers. They were and still are heroes.
In 1861, Unitarian poet Walt Whitman confronted the Civil War with enthusiasm, which he soon lost after he worked as a wound dresser in war hospitals. This poem, Come Up From the Field's Father, comes from Whitman's 8th volume, Leaves of Grass, published in 1900. Come up from the fields, Father. Here's a letter from our Pete. And come to the front door, Mother. Here's a letter from thy dear son. Lo, 'tis autumn. Lo, where the trees deeper green, yellower and redder, cool and sweeten Ohio's villages with leaves fluttering in the moderate wind, where apples ripe in the orchards hang and grapes on the trellised vines. Smell you the smell of grapes on the vine? Smell you the buckwheat where the bees were lately buzzing? Above all, lo, the sky so calm, so transparent after the rain, and with wondrous clouds. Below, too, all calm, all vital and beautiful, and the farm prospers well. Down in the fields, all prospers well. But now from the fields comes Father, come at the daughter's call, and comes to the entry Mother, to the front door comes right away. Fast as she can, she hurries, something ominous, her steps trembling. She does not tarry to smooth her hair nor adjust her cap. Open the envelope quickly. Oh, this is not our son's writing, yet his name is signed. Oh, a strange hand writes for our dear son. Oh, stricken mother's soul, all swims before her eyes, flashes with black. She catches the main words only. Sentences broken, gunshot wound in the breast, cavalry skirmish, taken to hospital. At present low, but will soon be better. Grieve not so, dear mother, the just grown daughter speaks through her sobs. The little sisters huddle around, speechless and dismayed. See, dearest mother, the letter says Pete will soon be better. Alas, poor boy, he will never be better, nor maybe needs to be better, that brave and simple soul. While they stand at home at the door, he is dead already. The only son is dead. But the mother needs to be better. She, with thin form, presently dressed in black, by day her meals untouched, then at night fitfully sleeping, often waking. In the midnight waking, weeping, longing with one deep longing. Oh, that she might withdraw unnoticed, silent from life escape and withdraw, to follow, to seek, to be with her dear dead son.
I don't come from a family with a tradition of the military, of sending lots of people away. My father in World War II, at that time, always felt very guilty because he was sick at the time. He went to the office to try and sign up, and he was disqualified from going to service. So he did everything he could. So many of the scout leaders had to go overseas, so at 19 he was very proud to be a lifelong Boy Scout leader, and in one way do his duty that way, and he's very proud of all the Boy Scouts that he served, I guess, in a way. He also was one of those guys that made sure at night you kept your shutters shut and your lights off so that if airplanes came over, they wouldn't see you. But as I said, he lost a brother, my Uncle Richard, and I think forever his family was impacted. My dad was the oldest. He has a younger brother, and I think Uncle Richard would have been the bridge between them, their lives, but there was always a missing gap, I think, after Uncle Richard died. So many times I wondered, what, it was kind of foreign to me, I guess. In the Vietnam War, it was so easy, I suppose, to be opposed. Of course, who would be for war, right? Who would be for war? And I remember, though, things started creeping in about the realization. I remember my grandma, mother of Uncle Richard, cleaning out her storage unit and finding the letters that were sent to her. 1 month, your son is missing in action. Another month, another month, another month, until the final letter with the news. And I think someone might have come at the door as well. You know, the people you never want to come to your door in uniforms when you have a loved one in service. And she was so stoic about it all, and I just thought, how devastating, right? And I was in high school, and I had this wonderful teacher who died recently. Monsieur Terrien was my French teacher, yes. And by the time I was in high school, he was pretty burned out on teaching. And so he told us stories of the war and all the girlfriends he met in Paris when he went to school on the GI Bill, right? And I remembered very distinctly that he would meet his girlfriends under all the headless statues of Saint Denis, right, of Saint Denis, because he was a martyr. And so I was so lucky to go the year that I was a senior in high school. Monsieur Terrien had a trip again available, and I worked throughout high school, so between that and my parents assisting me, I was able to go on the trip with Monsieur Terrien. And every headless statue I saw, I would say to my friends, that's where he met his girlfriends, right? And most of the trip, it was over our spring break, and France was very rainy and cold. And we did not go south, we only went north, because that was the terrain he knew. And we were in Paris, thank goodness, in the beginning and the end, but we went up north, and miraculously, during that time, the sun broke through for a few days, and that happened to be when we went to Normandy, and we went to the beaches. And I remember this gorgeous sunny day, finally sunny, where we're driving a busload of kids, 7th graders to 12th graders. Our wonderful bus driver, Claude, who didn't know a word of English, and the whole time he's driving, and he'd turn around smiling because it was such a gorgeous day, until he turned around and saw a busload of very sad kids, because at some point on the microphone on this tour bus, my teacher started to tell us why he got a Purple Heart. And there's usually a very hard story about why a person gets a Purple Heart. And he started to tell the story on the way to the beaches. And he shared, he had lied about his age to get into the war. You were supposed to be 18, but he was actually 17 when he got in. And it's just so hard to imagine what we put 17 and 18-year-olds through, in his case, 17. And in many ways, up until this particular time, he enjoyed the camaraderie. He had made good friends. He said, you know, I wish I hadn't used up all the morphine in the little kit they gave us for recreational reasons, because he needed it at the time he was wounded, and it wasn't there. But he was in one of those times. There were times when we sent our people behind enemy lines to surprise them, and we have a few of those times that really turned the tide in World War II. And he remembered before they went to the planes to get ready to be dropped wherever they were going, it was so secret that the clothing that they had was preparing them for what they thought was maybe Japan or Southeast Asia. It was light clothing, whatever, and that was to cover up for the fact that they were being dropped in France in the middle of winter when it was cold. And so they were dropped on one side and the other in the middle of German forces. He remembered, I just remember all these stories. The dysentery was so bad, he remembers he was grateful to tuck his pants into his boots, but also that there were hedgerows. And at night, they would secretly crawl between the hedgerows, and if you heard a noise, over went the grenades, and sometimes in the morning, they realized it was U.S. forces they had surprised. He had said, and this was something I thought only the Germans did, he had said if we came upon a farmhouse where the French had been harboring a German, we were to kill everybody, from the dog to the people to the children. I thought only the Germans did that. That was a new lesson for us little high schoolers, right? And he had said that eventually they were, well, I think his whole company was gone except for 3 people. I think there's like 70 people in a company. Everyone was gone but 3 people. His commander, who had disappeared, and he learned later survived. And he and his very best friend, and his very best friend had been injured terribly. His hand was kind of sort of hanging by a thread, literally. And he had to carry his friend, and eventually he realized his friend had died. So he was on his own, Germans everywhere. He hid himself in a haystack, and in the morning found himself at the end of a rifle. And it was the French farmer who was there on the farm. And in that moment, 50-50, is he a friend of Germany trying to save his own skin, or was he a friend of the United States? Thank goodness. I'm here to tell you the tale. He was a friend, and he became a lifelong friend of my French teacher. And Monsieur Terrien was, his hand was sewn up. When he showed us, we realized that's why so many lines were through his hand and why it wasn't fully usable after the war. And something that he did, he felt so indebted to this family. One of the daughters ended up having that problem when you have a hole in your heart, we say. And our high school, before my time, had raised money for her surgery so that she could live. And every year that Mr. Therian would take a class to France, when he could muster that together, we would visit the farm that dated to medieval times where this farmer lived. And so I got to meet the farmer who saved his life and shepherded him away to safety. And the farmer, I remember, served us apple mash that was homemade. It was the strongest liquor I've ever tasted in my life. Perfectly clear, very tasty actually, but very strong. I don't know if you should do that with a busload of high schoolers. But, and he was very proud to tell us, this was in 1978, very proud to tell us that they had just built a bathroom for their place. It was a beautiful experience. But such as it is, what we hold together in war and peace, yes, and what we do for each other in these times and try to understand it. And that's, I could have given you a reading, some more readings, but that's the story that I hold in my heart. Eli, if you could sing one response.
You'll find this is number 381 in your hymnal if you would like to join me. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land by every tongue.
This is the time in our service when we will pass the plate and accept your offerings. You may also go to our website to make a donation online. A portion of the offering will be shared this month and next with the Common Wheel, a nonprofit bike shop with a mission to transform our community. Before we pass the plate, let us read in unison the affirmation of faith found in the front of your hymnal, the gray hymnal, and I think it will appear in the Zoom chat as well. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And in Spanish, el amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ofrenda. Este es nuestro gran pacto, el convivir unidos en paz, el buscar la verdad en amor, y ayudarnos unos a los otros. The plates may be passed now, and while the plates are being passed, I have a few announcements. Do look to the weekly newsletter, the Love Letter, for weekly needs to know and events at UUCL, as well as at our Facebook page and website calendar. To sign up for the newsletter, please contact the office. As noted, Carol Lieber's Celebration of Life will be at 2 p.m. in the sanctuary and live streamed. A reception will follow. Next Sunday, November 20th, we will be sharing bread stories during the service. We are looking for 8 to 10 bread bakers or bread sharers who will also share a story about your bread tradition. Contact Reverend Pat if you would like to volunteer. Also, next Sunday, a congregational meeting will follow the service. And please continue to submit wounded words from last week's service, as noted in the love letter. While the plates are still being passed, take a moment to greet anyone behind you or in front of you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home, and grace will lead me home.
We gratefully receive these generous gifts, freely given, and dedicate them to the work and aspirations of the congregation. Let us read our covenant together, which is found in your order of service and in the Zoom chat. We covenant to provide a welcoming community for all ages, respecting diversity and the inherent worth and dignity of all. Trusting good intentions, we strive to live courageously in love, service, and spiritual growth, and to work for peace and justice in the world.
contribution from the heart and voice today. You know, I'm going to bring it to the present, something I wrote for our closing words. Not for our closing words, but actually in February of this year, as I listened to the reports of Ukraine, and as I was walking with a neighbor of mine, and I said to her, "You're from Ukraine, aren't you?" And she said, "My aunt and my cousin are in the basement of an apartment building right now. Thank goodness her family got out okay." I call it first thing. It happens while I enjoy my first cup of coffee, made from my favorite pricey dark roasted beans, with a comforting froth of milk, keeping me warm in my cozy heated house in winter, or staving off the chill of air conditioning in summer. It's then that my mind wanders to other mothers, those fleeing from bombed, burning buildings with their children and elderly parents in tow, and two garbage bags full of everything they can carry, entering the chaos of war in their neighborhood streets. The mothers fleeing their burning villages, imprisonment, and genocide. I hold in my thoughts and prayers the mothers who must choose each month between paying utilities, rent, or feeding their children, hoping they won't lose the roof over their heads. The mothers drinking their morning coffee as their eyes wander to a photo of a child lost to gunfire. I hold them in my heart and mind, wondering what more I can do. Is there some place to send a check? Do I contact politicians? Do I take to the streets? How do I counter the words and actions of despots, cheaters, and peddlers of lies? Well, now we know we can vote, right? But how do I counter the words and actions of despots, cheaters, and peddlers of lies? Will my voice be heard? My thoughts wander over my first cup of coffee, and I cannot let them go. But I'll close with a reading from Anne Frank. In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. I simply can't build up my hope on a foundation consisting of confusion, misery, and death. I see the world gradually being turned in a wilderness. I hear the ever-approaching thunder which will destroy us too. I can feel the suffering of millions, and yet, if I look up into the heavens, I think that it will all come right, that this cruelty will end, and that peace and tranquility will return again. In the meantime, I must uphold my ideals, for perhaps the time will come when I shall be able to carry them out. May it be so. Go in peace, go in joy, go in love.
Here I sit on Buttermilk Hill, those who blame me cry my fill, and every tear would turn a mill. Johnny has gone for a soldier. Me, oh my, I loved him so. Broke my heart to see him go. And only time will heal my woe. Johnny has gone for a soldier. I sell my flax, I sell my wheel to buy my love a sword of steel. So it in battle he may wield. Johnny has gone for a soldier. Oh my baby, oh my love, gone the rainbow, gone the dawn. Your father was my only love. Johnny has gone for a soldier. Here I sit on Buttermilk Hill. Who could find me cry my fill? And every tear would turn a mill. Johnny has gone for a soul.